All right, let's see if we can make this happen.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to start. That wasn't supposed to happen.
Oh no.
Well, just these things don't stay on like they're supposed to. Cheap.
Do you want me to?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, it's kind of to the side. Is that okay? There.
Hey, it's Peter Schmitz, the author of the upcoming book, One Inspires Many, Be the One. And I'm here with Lindsey Cook today, who's one of our volunteer guides for the Dare to Try organization. We're going to dive into her story today. So, Lindsey, thanks a lot for coming out here to tell your story.
Thank you for having me.
Well,
it's an honor.
It's a delight. Your story is awesome. I'm going to just put my hand here if that's okay. I'm not getting fresh.
I'll put mine here.
Okay, we'll stop that. But anyway, did you come out? No, you're
no,
good.
I didn't.
You're good.
Okay.
So let's start from the beginning. Okay. So
Okay.
how did you get involved with triathlons?
With triathlons.
Yeah, triathlons.
So I was a swimmer growing up. I started competitively swimming when I was 7.
Okay.
Down in Evanston.
Cool.
And then I swam through high school. In college, I took a break from athletics, and then later on got into cycling and running. I competed in the Little 500 bicycle race at Indiana University,
Cool.
the famous Little 500, and fell in love with cycling. And then running was just kind of an easy exercise to do. You just put on some shoes and go run.
Well, not quite, but anyway.
Yeah.
So when did you do your first triathlon?
Triathlon, I put them all together. I put those 3 sports together in 2009. I was living in DC.
Okay, and that's when you were in DC, all right.
I had some friends who had done triathlons, and they said, let's do one. So I went and did my first sprint triathlon at Georgetown University
Cool.
in 2009. And then within that year, we all kind of caught that bug. We went and did.
You definitely got the bug, but
Yeah,
that's
I still
interesting. So
have the
that's
bug.
when you got it, 2009.
It's a virus now.
It's a virus. That's well
It's a
put.
rampant virus.
So 2009, you did your first sprint, and you got hooked.
Yes, got hooked. I did my first 2 Olympic distances. I think it was that first year that I did a half Ironman too. And we did marathons, we did half marathons that first year.
Wow.
And then in 2010, we decided to commit to, well, actually in 2009, because you have to register for Ironman a year ahead of time. So we decided to commit to Ironman.
So tell the crowd, what does an Ironman mean? What is that? What do you have to do?
An Ironman is a 2.4 mile swim,
Yep.
112 mile bike, and a 26 mile run, 26.2 mile run. That extra 0.2 matters
You bet.
by the end.
And roughly, you have to finish that within a certain time.
17 hours.
You have to finish that within
Yeah,
17 hours,
yeah.
or you don't get the Ironman. They don't call
Well,
off your name, and
Exactly. Yeah.
it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal to finish that distance either way, but technically you're supposed to finish within 17 hours. That's when they start telling the volunteers to go home.
Yeah, no, I had a friend that didn't make it, but I've
Yeah.
never done an Ironman. I've done a half, but
Oh,
not,
cool.
not a whole. So,
Yeah.
so
A
what?
half-
Yeah,
half is a big deal.
It was a big deal. We won't go into my story, but so when did you get involved with this whole guiding concept? Because that was a fascinating story you were telling me.
So it was probably my 3rd triathlon. It was Nations Tri in DC.
In DC, okay.
Yeah, I was coming out of the Potomac River, disoriented like you always are coming out of the water, and was running up on a couple people who were right next to each other, and one was holding the other one's elbow
Okay.
and kind of stumbling a little bit. And I was an EMT in college. And so I just always kind of have that like safety mindset.
Okay, so you were paying attention, yeah.
Paying attention to how everybody's doing. So I thought, oh gosh, this guy's not in good shape. But it looked like he was moving forward. They looked like they were fine. But then I turned back and I saw that they had a tether around their waists.
Okay, the rope or whatever
The
you want
rope,
to tether.
yeah, tied together. And I was like, what is going on there?
Yeah, what is that?
Yeah, and so I turned around and just saw that one of the people was an athlete who was visually impaired or blind, and the other one was racing with him as a guide.
And then you
And
obviously
so
went on your way.
I
But
couldn't stop thinking about it the whole race.
wow.
I mean, the whole race, I was just like, what kind of relationship is required on both ends to be able to commit to that to do together?
Okay, so that's an interesting comment. What kind of relationship
Mm-hmm.
they have. You didn't stop to think about how are they going to do this. You focused on
Well,
the relationship.
Yeah.
But I find
yeah.
that interesting.
I mean, as far as
I would have focused on how they're going
How
to do
they
it.
do it.
Yeah, not the relationship. Although I love your thinking because the relationship is significant. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about, I figured, well, they've got that figured out, how they're going to do it. And I was thinking more about, like, you know, why.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why, not, I mean, like, why and how did that all work? How do you meet each other? Do you race? Do you train together?
So the whole race, you're thinking about this, okay?
Right,
Which is kind of cool. Did you see him ever again after that? Because obviously in
no.
races, it's hard to find people.
Right, I didn't see him.
So those
I didn't get to see the tandem, which has turned into my favorite part.
Okay, so let's
Yeah.
get to that. But how did you, tell me about the next step then. So you saw this at this race and you were fascinated by it.
Yeah, so I was living and working in DC, and it turns out that at that time I was figuring out what I wanted to do for my career. I knew that it wasn't health policy, which is what I was currently at that time working in. And so I started researching blind athletics. I had never even thought about the fact of any kind of person. I had never met someone who was blind before. I'd never interacted with someone who, so
you started researching
it. I found this one woman
from a job perspective or from a just I'm curious what they're doing perspective. I mean,
oh yeah. So I was looking at it for a possible career path,
okay,
or figuring out how to actually become a guide myself. And so, I didn't really find much on the career side. I emailed a couple people and they said, well, I'm not sure. And some of the organizations just didn't, they didn't have positions. And I was looking for a job yesterday.
Yeah, of course you were. You told me you weren't happy with your job. So I get that, looking for a job.
Yes. And then I also, nothing really matched. But I did find one woman who lives out in Washington State, I think. Her name's Nancy Stevens, and she had put together some guides and athletes. She had actually put together a camp, and I just found this all on internet searches.
Yeah.
A camp at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs for female blind athletes and their guides.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So now you're
triathletes.
So and their guides.
And their guides. Yeah. So I was like, wow. Okay, she's the one who I need to contact.
Okay. I
write her and say, hey, I live in DC. Do you know of any career opportunities in this field, or do you know of anybody who might need a guide? And I didn't hear a response.
At this point, you hadn't guided yet.
No.
Correct?
No. I was still about a year or so away from guiding. So she never wrote me back. I pinged her. It's like, hey, here, do you remember this email that I sent you, just making sure that you got it? And no response. So I didn't forget about it, but I just had a lot going on, I guess.
Yeah, well, no, life gets in the way.
The Ironman got in the way.
Well, the Ironman
training got in the way. That was significant. And then about a year, so almost to the day, a year later, I get a phone call, and it's Nancy. And she said, hey, I don't know if you remember emailing me about a year ago, but you had mentioned an interest in guiding. And I think there's an athlete in DC who might be interested in, or who you might be a good match with. So let me connect you. So she connected me and Tina Ament, who, and then she and I met her downtown DC, right off the mall at the Department of Justice building. This was the first time I'd ever met someone who's blind.
Well, and you still haven't guided yet.
I hadn't guided, and I'd never met someone who was blind.
Okay.
So
that's okay. I get that was the first time you met someone blind.
Right.
Yeah, that's significant.
Yeah, and I remember texting my friend Kelly, my best friend Kelly, on the way to the on the train. I was like, Kelly, I'm about to go right now to run with a woman, a DC lawyer who's blind, and I have no idea what to I'm not sure how to do this.
Yeah. And
all Kelly wrote back, and I still get touched by this because it was so poignant. She said, just ask her what she needs.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh.
That's pretty simple.
Yeah, that's really simple. I can do that. And that ends up being now the main point of everything.
But you didn't, somebody needed to tell you that because you didn't obviously think of it. I wouldn't think of that either.
I was just scared about what to do. I had never been around anybody who was physically disabled in any way. And so I was just unsure about how, all the stigma and the fear that's involved with that, the insecurities that are involved with that. I didn't know how to what that was about. So.
Well, and now you're going to be tethered to somebody, right? I mean, when
Right,
you run, you're
yeah.
you're tied together.
Yeah.
You can't just let them, right? So,
Right,
so it's like,
yeah.
now what? How do I do this?
I'd known a little bit enough about it I'd talked to her about it, and she's like, yeah, we'll run with the tether, and we'll just go run. And I was like, all right, let's go run. So we meet at the
I would say, how fast are you? Because
well, we had talked about that before, yeah.
so,
yeah.
so you knew you could keep up. I mean,
I knew that it was, she had set the standard. I think that she said even during that first few interactions on email, like, this is just going to be a shakeout run, easy. We'll go down on the mall, run down to the Washington Monument, come back, and we'll just chat and go for a run.
Cool.
Yeah, and so that happened. Tina and I started training together as much as she and I could meet up. We did track race. We
did what?
We went and did her workouts on the track.
On the track.
Yeah,
okay,
track
at the track.
track workouts. We did a few just like city road runs, and I never had the intention to race with her. It was just
okay. You were just going to guide for local stuff.
well, whatever she needed.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that turned into something big, if I remember you telling me before, right? Something.
Yeah. We did our first race. It was a 10-miler, and when she asked me to race, I was like, oh, really? You want to race together? I felt like I'd like gotten an A+ on an exam. I was like, okay,
That's cool.
If she wants me to guide her in a race, in one of her races, then okay, cool. I guess I'm doing an okay job.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess she trusts me enough, and I guess we have a relationship enough that it's okay for this to happen. So we went and did the George Washington Parkway Classic, which was a 10-miler, and we both ended up getting our best times, getting a PR on the 10-mile race.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So
that was like 2010-ish.
it was 2011.
11. Okay.
Yeah, and then I moved away. I was done with DC. I moved back to the small town in Indiana where I graduated from high school. I still had some family there. And she was like super bummed. And I understand why now, because it is really hard to find a consistent training guide.
Yeah,
all the time.
where you're in sync. And so you mentioned that one of the first things that attracted you was the relationship.
Yeah.
So obviously it sounds like you guys developed quite a bond.
Yeah, we did. She's a cool woman, she's
She's totally blind. She's not partially or any of these, because some of these guys can see stuff.
Yeah, she has no usable vision.
Okay, so you're her eyes. Mm-hmm. What's that like?
It is. It's funny because right now I'm parsing out what I thought it meant before, or how it felt before, and what it feels like now after I've had 6 years of experience with it.
Either one is fine. I mean, I would think you obviously have a lot of experience. I know
it's
you
an
have a lot
honor. That's the pervasive feeling, is that it's an honor to share an experience with somebody like that, where they're putting their trust in you to help them meet their goals.
Does it become like an out-of-body experience where it's not at all about you, it's all about them?
When things get hard, yes.
Okay.
I have pushed myself harder and farther than while training and racing with people who are blind than I would have ever been able to push myself before, because the focus is not on yourself and your own suffering. The focus is on the shared goal of getting them safely to the finish line.
Well, and the reason I asked that question is this: I helped handicapped kids ski.
Oh, cool.
And I used to be the brake. You would be behind them in a snowplow position going down the entire hill. Now, these weren't big hills here in Wisconsin, but you forget about the pain, because that hurts. That just hurts when you don't do it all the time.
Oh, yeah, you forget about the pain.
But you're focused on the other person, and that's why I asked the question, because I would think it's similar. It's not the same, but it's similar because your job is to make sure they don't step in a hole, or a curb, or
even if you're 100% breathless, you will find that extra breath to be able to say, curb up.
Yes, and I know you have terminology because I've run next to them and I can hear it, and I'm focused on myself.
Talking.
But it's like it's
the constant. Talking,
oh yeah,
yes.
it's constant.
And the funny thing is that I'm not much of a talker.
Yes.
Maybe I am.
But you have to be, because you're their eyes.
Yeah.
It's an honor. That's
It
pretty
is,
cool.
Yeah, it's an honor for them to put their trust in you enough, and it's a two-way street. I feel like they have to trust me, they have to trust the guide, and the guide has to also trust them.
Well, when you say something, curb up, they don't hesitate and go where, they just do it.
Right.
I mean, the timing and the communication is essential, because when you're running, I've seen it. That's all. I mean, I've witnessed it, and it's like, holy smokes, it's precise.
It is, yeah. In an ideal
I mean, it has
situation.
to be. Well, I suppose there's some learning curve, right?
Yeah.
To your when you're helping someone.
Well, and sometimes you just get to chat, like on training runs, you just get to chatting, and then
there's a curb.
Yeah, right. You get to a little ramp or something on a sidewalk, and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Sorry,
forgot.
Israel. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, and he's a pretty good runner, but there's others like James that's new to this sport, right?
Yeah.
And he needs guidance.
Yeah.
So
James is
anyway,
awesome.
James is awesome. He's staying at my house Saturday night for
Oh
the
my
race.
gosh, from Wakanda. Awesome.
So
Wait,
tell
who's
me.
guiding him?
I don't know.
Okay.
You know what? It's on the list. Somebody is guiding him.
Yeah.
It's not, and that's another. That gets me to one of my questions is, you've guided a lot of people in the last 6 years. So sometimes you just show up at a race and you get a guide.
Right.
Like James is this. I don't know who the guide is. Maybe he had him before, maybe not. But if you want to race, you don't get a choice.
Yeah.
That's got to be brutal.
I know. I can't imagine how that feels.
Well, but you've done it, haven't you? Shown up.
I've shown up as a guide.
Yeah, but it's
being confident in my ability to guide them and to make
Okay.
sure that I'll do everything in my power to make sure that they have as safe a race as possible.
Okay.
But I have no idea how it feels for them to show up at a race and just put your quote unquote blind trust in somebody who you've never met before and who might not have ever guided even.
Well, and obviously there's a difference in guides.
Yes.
Right? I mean, their experience level, their communication
it's absolutely
level.
a personality thing. There's some people who are fit for guiding, and some people who are not fit for guiding at all. Myself and some other people who are now like connectors of blind athletes and guides. I don't know.
Well, I look at your friend Carolyn, right?
Yes,
She's a guide.
Carolyn,
She does a lot of guiding, it looks like to me, from afar, and travels to guide. And appears to love it.
Yeah,
She's always smiling.
She does.
She's always
Yes,
smiling.
that huge smile of hers.
So what makes one guide like that, love it, live and breathe it, and others just guide? I'm still observing this from afar.
It's interesting because now that I just moved to Chicago, I've met a couple almost quote unquote career guides.
Okay.
Like myself or Carolyn who don't really find as much satisfaction at all in doing your own races as you do with guiding. Andy Emmerich is one of those people.
He loves it.
Yeah,
he loves
Danny
it.
Craven lives down in Austin, Texas.
I don't know him, but
and
Eric does it a lot too. Eric, the young Eric.
Oh yeah. Oh, Eric. Yes.
He does a lot of guiding.
Eric Robb. Yes.
Yes, Rob.
Yes. He also. I feel like us guides like get along really well because I don't know. I guess it's a certain personality. You know that I don't always assume that a guide is going to be a giver, but like I know that people who choose to do it a lot in their free time without the glory of racing and all that.
Well, let's be clear, just for the writer here. You don't get paid for this. You do it. It's a volunteer sport.
Right.
And you have to be able to do the entire race yourself at the pace of your
Faster.
person. Faster.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have to be in shape. You have to be able to do it, and unless it's hard enough. So the statement you made was quite interesting. Is you get more satisfaction out of guiding than you do doing it yourself.
Right.
Tell me about that, because I want to understand that.
On the most basic level, triathlon is a hard sport in the first place. So if you are allowed to suffer with somebody, then that's much better than suffering by yourself.
Okay, that's well put, because you do suffer. You go, as Coach Stacy says, you go in the pain cave.
The pain cave, and you're in the pain cave together. And especially for the longer races, like the half Ironmans and the full Ironmans. You know what? Even the 5Ks, though. I guided Israel at the 5K on Monday down at Soldier Field, and he was walking me through it because I'm out of shape right now. So you get this. It's like the military perspective.
Meaning what?
You don't finish alone. Nobody finishes alone.
Oh,
And
interesting.
you help each other through it, and by the end of the race, you feel like you've gone to battle together. You've had to figure out how each other moves. It's almost like dancing, especially in the run portion. You sense each other's movements. You have problem solved together. You've put your ego aside together. You have mutual respect for each other.
Excuse me.
And you have to, as a guide, you have to have razor sharp focus the whole time.
Oh, I believe that.
Which pushes that suffering aside. And so to experience that trust and the problem solving and the camaraderie, the respect, the humility that's required within that relationship is really rewarding.
So yeah, I want to. That was my next question, kind of to bring this to a close. Is what do you get out of this? I mean, obviously that's all.
I have.
But you personally,
you've
given up a lot
of my friends are in this world. All of my true friends
are in triathlon world.
Are in the triathlon / guiding / paratriathlon world now.
Okay, so this
it's a different mindset to have to.
It's a totally different mindset.
Yeah, you know.
I do know, but it's not. It's not about me. It's about you right now. Okay, so it is a different world, and people who are outside of the world don't get it. I was talking to my friend on the way down here, and you know how important this is to me, and blah blah blah, and he just doesn't get it.
Yeah.
And I'm not.
I've chosen, like, there's a lot of times when I'm having conversations, and I just decide to, like, stop trying to explain it, because sometimes people I don't know. People have different priorities, and this happens to be my passion and my priority, and I don't expect other people to understand or care.
No, but back to the question:
Okay.
What does Lindsey get? Because we were talking about this with you were talking with your mom. Is volunteering? You could volunteer at a soup kitchen, at a church, at a hospital, whatever, and still volunteer. But this is way beyond volunteering, and you did talk in the beginning about the relationship is so important to you, but and I agree with that, what you've described about the relationship and the trust and the honor, but what do you get at the bottom in your spirit? You know what, I could go into the deeper history part if you want. Is it like a very dysfunctional family, and I know that a lot of people come from quote unquote dysfunctional homes, and a lot of times, and it's an endearing term, which actually for me and my family now. My sister just got married last weekend. I was the minister for it. Okay, I saw that on Facebook. Yeah, my mom and dad and nephew were all there, so we're all good now. Okay. But it wasn't okay for a long time. Okay. When I was 11, no, maybe not. Okay. Maybe not. But okay. Because of that, they were divorced. It was not a healthy household growing up. It's a dysfunctional. There was a lot of lying. There was a lot of mistrust. Okay. There was a lot of anger. Tempers, all that stuff, and from age 11 on, I was kind of a transient child. Okay. I moved in with a couple families who were open, and then there was always the threat of foster care, and then I ended up living with my grandma, my dad's mom. She was like 82 at the time. So there's really no foundation in your life. Not a foundation with. Being able to count on certainty. Yeah, and obviously this sport depends on that. And when you start the finish line, when you start at the start line, you're never sure what's going to happen. True. And very so true. At the same point that I am used to that environment, and I almost like enjoy having to come to a precipice and like, okay, what do we do? Like, I love that. I love the concept, the quote of the only thing that is certain is uncertainty. So tell me about your race in Pleasant Prairie. How far did you guys walk? Because you had two flat tires? Yeah. You and James, you had a flat tire. Flat tire in the back. You fixed it. We fixed it, thanks to Carrie. She had a flat kit, and I was stupid and didn't bring the flat kit. Okay, well that's. But then you got another flat. It went flat again, right? Yeah. The tire went flat again. Yeah. So we knew that it was an issue with the tire. Okay. So we walked it in. How far? It was 3.5 miles. You and James walked a tandem bicycle 3.5 miles because James said, "I'm not quitting." Yes, he did. I I
that
remember
moment.
that.
I will remember that moment.
I saw
for the
you
rest of my
guys
life.
coming in. I said, "What?" You know.
What happened?
And James said, "I'm not quitting.
I'm not quitting. Yeah.
I'll be last, but I'm
Oh,
not quitting."
I love it. He said, "We'll be out here. I don't care." You know what I loved it about him is that he said, "I don't care if I am out here until it's dark out. I will finish this race."
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Good for him.
the thing about that whole concept, the fact that he was using the pronoun I, helped me realize how much he trusted me to just be there with him. The expectation was for me to be there with him
Oh wow.
to finish his race.
So the I was almost plural. I mean, it was
Yeah.
because he couldn't do it without you, right? He can't see.
No, yeah, but the thing about guides is that, and Carolyn actually coined this term, is that we are a piece of equipment.
Oh.
And
In a good way, I
as-
hope. I try. That's
In
interesting.
a
You're
good
a piece
way.
of equipment.
Yeah, I am honored to be a piece of living, breathing equipment. And so one of his pieces of equipment, the tandem bicycle, had failed, but he just, didn't even ask, like, "Hey, do you want to finish this?" I'm like, "Look, I'm here for it." He didn't even ask. He said, "I'm doing this because this is his race." The understanding was there that this was his race, and I don't even know if he realized how that resonated with me.
Probably not.
But I was just like,
I mean, it's not something you guys talked about, probably.
no, we had actually, that was a race where we had never really talked
your
ever
first time.
before. Yeah, we hadn't really, and I was so excited. One thing, sorry, I was really
It's okay.
excited about, he has a positive perspective.
Oh, totally.
He has a tenacious perspective, and he perseveres. So the second he said that, I was like, "You're my man. I love it. Let's finish this." But I said after a while, after like 2 miles, I said, "This is actually really nice. We wouldn't have had this time to get to know each other."
But it's interesting. So the guide never says we're going to stop.
Sometimes they do. Sometimes that's how the race goes.
Well, because
That's not something that I've ever consciously said.
no, but if the bike broke to the point you couldn't walk it, you'd have to do something different, right?
Right.
Or
Yeah.
or he twisted an ankle running or
Right.
something. That'd be you. There are circumstances where you'd have to stop
Have
for
to stop, yeah.
safety or health reasons. But
It should never
walking a
be-
bike because it's got a flat tire at 3.5 miles is that's a good hike, and it was
Yeah.
a hot day.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it was. The decision to stop should never come from the guide.
So you're a piece of equipment.
Yeah. And as last year with all the Rio stuff happening, and Amy and I actually going to Rio together to do the qualifier and going to Mexico.
Wait a minute, slow down. You and Amy went to Rio to qualify
For the Paralympics.
For the Paralympics. Who's Amy?
Amy Dixon, she is a PT5 female who has been in contention for a Paralympic spot for Team USA up until I guess July 8th.
Yeah, whenever they got the chosen.
the
so-
official roster.
So you went to Rio last, I forget when it was, but
It was in August, September, yeah.
last year.
Last year.
And you,
It was the first Olympic qualifier.
okay, wow.
Yeah, so with all these expenses, she and I trained and raced everywhere. I had a lot of flexibility in my job. I was an adjunct professor at a small liberal arts college. And so I was on the academic schedule. I had like 10 weeks off.
Oh, wow. So you
And
could do this. You
So
had the
she and I
freedom.
trained and traveled everywhere. She's a very aggressive fundraiser, so we had the funds to do it.
Yeah,
but-
because you didn't get paid, but she raised the funds,
raised the
right?
funds.
So that you could
So
pay
that
for both you guys
Her
to go.
very expensive piece of equipment
That's
could
you.
come along. Yes.
Well, she has to, right? I mean,
Yeah.
in those situations.
yeah.
Otherwise, she gets a guide wherever she goes, and she doesn't have the relationship that's
Right.
so vital to success.
Yeah. You know what? I should say one other thing that is really rewarding, and I saw the potential for this early on from the moment I started searching for an organization that paired up guides and blind athletes, was the advocacy part.
The
The
advocate.
advocacy.
Okay, explain. I'm not sure what you mean by that.
I was surprised that there wasn't a really solid support network
Okay.
for,
For people with blindness.
people, yeah.
That needed the support.
yeah. And so I was a policy analyst. I have kind of a policy brain and an advocacy brain for sure.
So you're going to be the advocate for the disabled athlete that's a blind person.
Either the blind athlete or the guide. At this point, it's really nice to be, it's turned into a second job.
Okay, you said that earlier, that you're doing so much of this.
Yes.
You're
I mean,
trying to pair
yeah.
people together, to create
Pair
some
people
kind
together,
of.
yeah.
But James was telling me, or Alberto, that there is an organization now where if he goes
Yeah.
to another city, he can say, "Can I find a guide in this location?"
UnitedInStride.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
So something exists. I don't know how good it is, but.
Well, it's a network. It's a networking website. It's not a brick and mortar organization. They set it up, and so its success is dependent on how many people are willing to use it.
Okay, and how many people will be guides, right? Because
Right.
I mean, in the country, how many guides are there?
I mean, probably a lot more than we think. There's a lot of people who do just go out and run as guides.
Kind of like you did in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then
Well, and the sport is growing. I mean, the whole triathlon sport is
yes,
growing.
absolutely.
So
and the sport of
obviously,
triathlon is growing too.
Right, but that doesn't need the guides, right? They're not in that category.
The whole world, the whole interest in triathlon and people who compete in sports who have some sort of physical impairment is a lot more popular.
It's growing
Yeah.
like crazy, which
Yeah.
is great to see. Great to
It is.
see.
It is.
So
doing the advocacy part, like this week, for example, I have this is not a typical week, but I always have some sort of connection with the world, the community of guiding and blind athletics.
Okay.
Like this week, I had been contacted 3 times, and have paired up.
To guide or to find somebody
Both.
a guide? Oh,
yeah.
to both.
Yeah, 2 of them were athletes reaching out to me to find a guide. And I made those made the connections where, like, actually, where I could, you know,
Okay,
at
yeah,
least like started them down the path.
Yeah.
And then one guide contacted me to see if I knew any blind athletes who'd be willing to do this crazy race up in Alaska.
Okay.
So he was like, I need somebody who is a glutton for punishment. And I was like, oh, I got your man.
So he's a guide that wanted a blind athlete
Yeah.
to go to this race?
Yeah.
Well, that's quite different.
Well, and that's what it should be too, I think.
interesting.
Sometimes, yeah. Not in I mean, there's some tact involved.
True.
But if you're a guide and you have these resources, if you have the experience and the skill and the interest, hell yeah, you should reach out to a blind athlete and say, hey, do you want to race with me?
Okay, so he could have gone and done it himself, but like you, he
Yeah.
would prefer to guide somebody.
Right, yeah.
It's more rewarding.
Yeah, he finds it very rewarding.
Wow.
It's Chris McClendon. He lives down in Houston, and he and his friend Jared put together, it's almost like the Dare to Try of Texas. It's called Catapult.
Cool.
So,
Well, and the whole Dare to Try concept is spreading around the country. I mean, which is great to see. We may be one of the organizations, but I know they were just in Wisconsin doing a work camp like they did for us.
yeah.
Some of our coaches.
Yeah, Dare to Try is amazing. Yep.
So as we bring this to kind of wrap it up here, we've been all over the map, but so if you were to reach out to say to somebody, you know, because it's about being the one. The book is about, you know, one inspires many, be the one. You're kind of the one in this conversation and in what you're doing. You're being the one. You are very inspiring, whether you realize it or not. I'm sure you know you're one of us that inspires people, and that's all great. But the purpose, the goal of the book is to help other people go be the one. So we were talking about this before, that being a guide for a triathlon, a blind athlete, is maybe not what the reader wants to do, but what can a person hope to get out of being a volunteer?
Well, I think that people need to be able to find inspiration in the smallest little thing.
Okay.
People need to find inspiration in the ant that's carrying a cracker across a sidewalk. My first triathlon, I remember a moment where it was an uphill finish on the run, and I saw this. I was hurting.
Yeah,
it was hot, and it was my first triathlon. I saw this girl walking up the hill, the same hill that I was running up, and she had these huge heels on, and I was like, girl, you go. I know that you're my inspiration right now, because I know you're hurting in those heels more than I am running up this hill.
Wow.
And so she inspired me to just keep going, because I knew she was probably in more pain than I was being in heels. So I think it's important for people to recognize the abilities in everybody and everything.
Okay.
Whether it's super small or super huge. I think it's just a mindset that opens up a lot of positivity and a lot of experiences that being open to things, being open to new things, not being scared to try new things. To me, I think being fearful is incredibly selfish. Interesting statement. It's not. It's a feeling that we all have. Yeah. It's a natural feeling, but a person needs to learn how to take themselves out of the equation and understand that if they have an interest to do something or a drive to do something, that to indulge in that fear is just selfish. You need to get over it. Get over yourself. You're not that important to have that fear. That's a pretty powerful statement. Other people have done a lot more other things than you have, and it's not a competition. No. But it's like you're able. You can do this. You can do this. I remember standing on the side of the Ohio River with Tina, and I was so fearful. In retrospect. This was a triathlon? This was an Ironman. Oh, an Ironman. Okay. Yeah. I've done 2 Ironmans. I've done one on my own and one guiding Tina. Okay. And I put on the tether to swim. She puts on the tether to swim. I look at my mom and she's like teary-eyed and all that. And I'm like also kind of teary-eyed because there's so much emotion at the beginning of an Ironman anyway. Brutal. Wow. And then also not knowing how the day was going to go, but you can't indulge in that fear because the goal that day wasn't about me, it was about her. Okay. And then that's what you mean by you can't be selfish in the fear. You can be afraid. You can be afraid. But you go do it anyway. You go do it anyway. Get over yourself. Just go do it. Stop worrying about it. Stop stewing. Just go do it. Yeah. You'd be amazed, like, if you get over your fears, and this sounds cliche, but it's really incredible if you could get over those fears. And most people can't, right? They get stuck. They stop. Yeah. It's so frustrating. But so if we're talking to the audience kind of here is how do they find something, and I'm not saying being a guide for a blind person, where they can find the passion. Yeah. How would you tell somebody go find something, whatever it is, to feel like you do in being a volunteer and being part of the tools, right? Part of the, what'd you say before? Equipment. Part of the equipment, where you're just, it's like when I was doing the skiing thing, I was just there, right? It didn't matter how much it hurt. How do we tell people, and I like your comment, get over the fear. You're selfish if you won't go do it. Well, go out and live. Get out of your door and go do stuff. Get involved. Whatever you're interested in. And if you don't know what your interest is, go try a bunch of shit, and if you don't like it, don't do it again. If you like it, it's like you tried a triathlon and you loved it. Dabble in it, yeah. And I did too, and a lot of people don't. And that's totally cool. The point is, try something. Try something, and don't be fearful that's good. To go out and do it. Well, thank you very much. Thank you so much. This was great. You're inspiring me to go do something. Oh, we should go run. Yeah, well, I already did today. No, I already did today. No, the martini is not going to settle well. So I did my exercise today, and it's brutally hot right now outside. Yeah. But thank you very much. We'll get this take. Thank you for asking. And I think that sometimes guides I don't know. It's cool that you recognize the fact that, and I'm coming from like an advocate for the pair, for that dyad, for the blind athlete and for the guide. I bridge the gap, Switzerland, neutral. You've got to advocate for both people. But the fact that you actually recognize that, hey, this is actually kind of interesting, this guiding thing. It's beyond interesting. It's beyond. I mean, it's way more than interesting. And I did not understand it. So thank you for asking me. You're welcome. I'm glad I did, because now that I'm on the team and I can see these what you're doing, right? Before I was just racing for myself. I wasn't paying attention, but now that I've got to know James and Alberto and some of the other guys. I'm going to nationals. Yeah, and so it's a whole different world. Yeah. And you start to see how
how they have to rely on you as part of the equipment. The trust in that relationship is powerful. I observed it, but I didn't understand it. So thank you for explaining it much better. You have a way of explaining things that is quite good.
Oh, good.
So quite good. And you know, I don't know anybody else that's, quote, you know, I'd call you a professional guide. You do a lot of it, as opposed to, and I like Andrew. He does it a lot. I've not talked to him. He might be another good one to talk to.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
he's awesome.
Yeah. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, shut this off. You can finish your drink.
The martini. Yes.